Hello there. Welcome to my channel Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly and today I have a 2-page layout using the Storybook Life Collection. Today we're focusing on creating a faux wood grain background. We're using a 12 by 12 piece of two-tone cardstock in crumb cake. We're going to use the light side as two-tone cardstocks have a true color side and a back side that's about half a shade lighter. We're going to randomly score all the way across the cardstock. The increments range from 1/4 to 1 inch and are truly random. Once we scored across the cardstock, we're going to flip the cardstock over to the reverse side and we're going to run an ink pad down the length of the cardstock on the side that is raised up or reverse scored. I've chosen a couple ink pads to show you the difference between ink pads. Close to my heart ink pads are much drier than Stampin' Up! Ink pads. You run them down the length of the paper and you get that wood grain look. Stampin' Up! Ink pads are so much juicier. They will work equally as well, but instead of pushing harder, you're going to push much lighter. Barely put your ink pad just so that it's kissing the paper. Otherwise, it will soak in and saturate and stick as I'm showing you here. You can use crumb cake ink with crumb cake paper or go with a darker pecan pie if you want a more prominent wood grain. Just be sure to kiss lightly on the paper for the perfect wood grain look. We're going to repeat that performance on willow white cardstock with your preferred color, Stampin' Up! Crumb Cake or Pecan Pie or Close to My Heart Toffee. There are many awesome videos out there on creating faux wood grain backgrounds. Back in the day, we created wood grain backgrounds in lots of ways, including much more complicated ways, even using texture paste. But this truly, in my humble opinion, is the easiest way and it turns out great. It really helps create a more interesting background without using even more of your precious pattern paper, and it also helps to coordinate with your paper line and elevate your pages. Like I said, there are lots of awesome videos out there that are super helpful on creating wood grain patterns, and one that I particularly like is by Tanya Roberts because she shows lots of different color combos of cardstocks and inks, and it's great to get a visual on what some of those other colors would look like. I'll link Tanya's video in the description, and you can run your ink back up and down the paper as many times as you like to achieve the look that you're going for. Today I'm using some family photos taken in an area where we camp every year, and if you watch my channel, you know we had a big picture fiasco. On this trip, our oldest son and his family and my husband ended up not being able to make it in time. So this is only part of my family, including my daughter, her 3 daughters, and my son-in-law, my youngest son Zachary, and his wife MJ. My husband was stuck in line at a sale barn with a semi-load of cattle. So needless to say, we're still married after he missed the pictures, but it was definitely touch and go for a while. I still love the photos, even though it's only half of the family, and I've been working through getting them scrapped. So I envision having the whole family over on the left, the individual families on the right, and then there's one of myself with all my grandkids on the right as well, or half of my grandkids. So I have 8 grandkids and 4 of them are represented in these photos, and I've been trying to work through all of these and get them scrapped. So I'm going to use the 12 by 12 white wood grain, faux wood grain in the back. You can use the wood grain vertical or horizontal, whatever you prefer. And then I'm going to trim down the crumb cake wood grain. It's going to be 9 by 10. I'm going to add 8 by 7 flannel pieces, and you could have gotten by with 1 1/4 on the top and 1 1/4 on the bottom and spared the middle in retrospect. And then I'm adding 2 1/4 by 10 strawberry paper on the top of each and a 1/2 by 10 strawberry paper on the bottom. So I'm using a lot of bits of paper to make it look like they're whole pieces. And we're just going to strategically place those so that the pieces in the middle could be trimmed out. So again, on the flannel, if you went 1 1/4 strip on the top and 1 1/4 strip on the bottom, so it would be 1 1/4 by 8, for the top and the bottom. Now, on my previous Storybook Life layout, this barn layout, I actually used the gorgeous cherry cobbler paper. So I'm going to pull in some of the leftovers from that. I have 4.5 by 11, and I'm going to dovetail that. So you can dovetail or notch by making a little mark in the center. So if it's 4.5, the center would be 2.25, and then you could actually cut a 1/2 inch slit and then cut up from either side to make a perfect notch. Sometimes when I really am picky and I want it to be just so, I'll take a scrap piece of paper of the same size, fold it in half, cut it on an angle, and that way I get a perfect pattern. I also actually save different sizes of dovetailed white pieces to use as patterns. If you're one of those that gets frustrated because your angle is off a little bit, you can always create that out of a ruined piece of scrap paper or an ugly piece of paper, and then create the perfect angle on scrap paper and use it as a pattern, and you'll get the perfect dovetail every time. You do get better and better at dovetails or notches, so the more you practice creating those by notching up and cutting inward, you can also, if it's a pliable piece of paper, if you're using like two-tone cardstock that's thin, or if you're using pattern paper, you could actually bend it upward and use one side as the pattern on the other side. Now I'm going to go ahead and center this faux crumb cake wood grain piece, and that's going to be our base. So it's basically going to be centered vertically and horizontally, so there's an equal amount of paper on the right sides and the left sides and the top and the bottom. And then we're going to layer all of those pieces. So again, the only thing I would do differently here is I would trim down that plaid or the blue plaid, just because I could use the center of that on some other layouts. I'm trying to squeak 12 pages out of the scrapbooking workshop kit. So I didn't show that scrapbooking workshop kit on this because I showed it completely in my previous video, and I will link that previous video in the description here. And I didn't want to put you through looking at all of those ingredients again. But we're working with the designer series paper that comes in the kit. And then there'll be a sticker sheet, some punch outs, some extra cardstock that come in the kit, and some extra specialty papers. The blue plaid is actually one of the extra specialty papers that is only found in the Storybook Life workshop kit. So now I'm just strategically placing these. I'm going to place the cherry cobbler dovetailed piece in the center, and I'm not going to put adhesive on the bottom of this plaid strip. So I put the adhesive all the way except for on the bottom, because I want to be able to tuck that last strip under once I get the cherry cobbler piece in place. And I really love this layered look, and it makes it look like all of those pieces are full pieces underneath. And it's a trick that is used over and over again to just use small strips. Sometimes it takes a minute to figure out the sizes. So sometimes I'll put whole pieces under there, lay them in place, figure out how much I can salvage underneath, and then trim out the bits underneath so as to be able to stretch the paper and have more paper to use on future layouts. So now that I've tucked that 1/2 inch piece under, I can actually add my adhesive and put my adhesive in place. So now we have lots of texture in the background. We've created our own faux wood grain background, so we don't have to worry about using full pieces of pattern paper in the background, but yet it's so fitting. It goes with the photos, it goes with the country vibe of the paper line, and I love that look, and it was so quick and easy to do. So now I'm just going to arrange those photos, and I'm going to arrange those over the plaid. and I'm going to leave some space to do a little bit of embellishing. You're going to see here in a minute that I get started in one direction and I have to do a do-over. And it's okay if you have icons that you think that you really want to use and that you really love, and you get them in place and you're like, no, that's not working. It's okay to take a different direction. So now I realize, after I have this whole thing put together, that I got in too big of a hurry, and of course I want to ink the edges. This is a country vibe. It definitely should have some pecan inking. So I very gently lift everything up, and believe it or not, I'm able to get it accomplished after the fact. But if you are recreating this layout, definitely ink all of your edges with pecan pie and a blending tool prior to putting those together. So I have an 1/8 inch border, white border, around the photo. So I have 4x6, 2 3x4s, and 2 3x3s, and I have an 1/8 inch white, and then I go with a 1/4 inch of the crumb cake and ink those edges. So we have a lot of large icons in this set. Really large strawberries, large vegetation, large bunny, large goose. We have large carrots here. We have a really large pot and some large frames. There aren't a lot of small, medium icons to be able to use. We have a few corners and just very few pieces to use because the stickers are so large and the punch outs are so large in this set. So I love the pot. I love the strawberries. I've used the strawberry papers. So this area where we camp, actually there's large gardens there, and then we're basically in a field in the photo. And I thought that this really cute large pot would work great. And really the only greenery that I have in this set would be the strawberries, or maybe the beans or the carrots. So I originally thought I would put the strawberries on top of the pot, and I get it in place. There's also not a lot of title opportunities in this one. And so I considered using the coordinating stamps and dies that go with this set. And we'll talk about those in just a minute. But I'm just sort of shopping the pieces that I do have just to see if I can make them work. Now, I just got back from the on-stage Stampin' Up! Convention and the new reveal of the upcoming May catalog. And I am so pleased to report to scrapbookers everywhere that the stickers and the ephemera punch outs in the new sets that are coming have small, medium, and large words, small, medium, and large icons, and 5 to 7 or 8 title opportunities in each workshop kit. So I'm over the moon excited. I won't have this problem in the future of having to come up with extra titles or extra bits. So now I think at this point in the video that I've decided on these icons, and I'm going to ink all of the edges of those icons, but you're going to see here in a minute that I changed my mind on the large pot. I considered tipping the pot over on its side and having a little greenery come out. I considered maybe cutting some other flourishes or leaves and maybe having something else come out of the pot. I considered using the Storybook Friends or the Storybook Garden icons in the stamp set and making a smaller pot. I've considered all things, and I'm really trying hard to use the icons that I've been given. I love to use up every single bit and piece of a collection or a workshop kit, and it's so satisfying because once I've taken a 6-page workshop kit and I've transformed it into a 12-page workshop, I really love to have everything gone and done. Once I've completed 12 pages, I'm pretty much over the whole collection, and I want to have nothing left so that it feels good to have not wasted anything. So I'm really trying hard, as you can see here, to make the pot work. So I place it, I get it into place, and I actually leave it overnight. I leave it lay overnight because once I get it together, I'm thinking, my goodness, I love oversized icons. People who watch my channel know that that's my go-to, is very oversized Cricut pieces and oversized elements. I love that. But there was something about this one where the pot was so large and the people were so small that I was really second guessing myself. I even sent it to a quick snap to a couple of my downline paper crafters, and I'm like, what do you think about this? It's bugging me. I don't know exactly what it is. Now, the other thing that I thought might be bugging me is I pulled in the cherry cobbler, and the cherry cobbler is actually not part of the Storybook coordinating cardstock. It's actually a color that I pulled in to create the barn layout. That I'll link that barn layout in the description. It was part of a sketch hop. But I was thinking, so in the original collection, it's more Calypso Coral, which is the color of the pot, but there's a little hint of the cherry cobbler in the strawberries and in the strawberry pattern paper. So I had pulled in that cherry cobbler, and I'm trying to use up the cherry cobbler that I pulled in to make it worth pulling it in, using it up on a second layout. So it could be the clash of the Calypso Coral and the cherry cobbler, or it could simply be the size of the icons. And so I'm playing around with it, and I consider just the strawberries. I do pull out the coordinating stamps and dies. So this adorable Storybook garden set has vegetables, fruits, and a pot, and all of the different pieces like the watering can. And then the Storybook Friends has some frames and some little characters, but I'm not quite feeling that either. It's not quite going with this layout. And again, shopping back through the icons, they're enormous. They're very, very big. And like I said, as Stampin' Up! Has progressed with their scrapbooking line, I've been so amazed at the transformation. If you look at the 4 original workshops, then the last 4 workshops that we received, which is this one is included, and the next 4 that we saw a peek of at the onstage convention, you are going to be so happy because we have small, medium, and large icons, small, medium, and large words, and lots more title opportunities than just, say, 3 stickers. So I went ahead and I cut some strawberry leaves on the Cricut. I wanted the strawberry leaves to match with the strawberry paper. I cut those in light and dark old olive, and they're actually designed to lay on top of each other with the light behind the dark. But I thought, what if I toggle those and make them look a little bit more like a full strawberry bush or a strawberry plant, and then strategically place the title over it? So I made a couple 2-leaf cutouts and a couple 3-leaf cutouts. Now we have so many leaf dies, and if you have leaf dies, by all means pull them out. So we have the layered leaf set, which would be really pretty. There's so many different leaves and so many different Stampin' Up! Sets that you probably have so many that you could choose from. So if you're not a Cricut user, pull out some of your leaf dies and use whatever leaves that you have in terms of your dies. You can even use stamped leaves if you would like to. So now I have inked all the edges of those extra leaves, and I'm going to try to strategically toggle those, but I feel like we could do a little bit more with those leaves just using something round. We could use a pen or a pencil or a shimmer brush or something round, and I think we could round the edges of those leaves. And I think it would also be fun if we use a dimensional, a little foam tape just on the tips of those curved leaves, and that makes them look a little bit more realistic, and it gives them a nice curve, and it makes them curve downwards. So pretty. And so I'm curving those down, and I'm adding a little bit of foam onto the tips, and then I'm going to toggle them so that the background that would normally be attached to the front creates an added layer. So however I lay those, I'm going to toggle the top so that it just toggles a little bit so that background is a shadow instead of a direct offset. So I don't want it to be a direct offset underneath. And here's where I'm going to just use real scientific means, and I'm going to curl the edges. There are actual tools out there that can help you curl. A bone folder can help you curl. You can kind of, just like you would like Christmas ribbon, where you would use the edge of your scissors, you could use the edge of a bone folder. I just use whatever I happen to have handy. So then we have these butterflies that are in the punch outs, which I think I can get by with using the leaves and the butterfly, which makes me even happier because I'm loving the look. And then that gives me those large strawberry pieces for additional layouts, because those large pieces that you saw in the Junk Gypsy tray are the pieces that I have for this collection to finish out 12 pages. So I added the large barn overlay in my previous layout, and that took up a lot of space. And so that stretched my icons. I used some of the large strawberries on that one. And if I don't have to use strawberries on this one, and I come up with something that I'm in love with, I'm able to use those strawberries on a different layout. And it's coming together. I'm really liking that. So I think when Stampin' Up! Began, they promised us a full 12 by 12 scrapbooking line, but they said from the get-go, this is going to take time. So they're so far ahead in their paper collections and in their catalogs that they had to use some existing product to actually makeshift and make scrapbooking kits out of existing things that they had already created. So some of the icons some of the collections didn't have stickers yet in the first collections. And then when they came out with stickers in the next set of collections and kits, they were actually super large. So they were really, really large, which is great. We need large icons, but we also need a large variety, because it's fun to add little added words here and there in addition to the title, or little subtitles to the title. And to cluster, you really need a large, medium, and a small. You don't need it, but it's great to have all different sized icons. So I really loved seeing the transformation and the progression. So with the first 4 workshops, we had Halloween, we had fall, and we had a winter and a Christmas. And so many of those did not have sticker sheets at all. And then we got the next collection, which includes Storybook that we're working on today. Wildflower Celebrations is in there, Meant to Be is in there, and Everyday You and Me is in there. We not only got stickers, but in several of those collections, we got lots of wonderful ephemera of different sizes. Now fast forward with the sneak peek that we've seen on our onstage convention of the upcoming May catalog. It has scrapbooking incorporated right into the annual catalog, because Stampin' Up! Needed time, right? You can't just develop a wonderful 12 by 12 scrapbooking workshop line overnight. And I can't even believe how fast it's been. We'll be coming up on a year in May, and all of the scrapbooking workshop kits in the new catalog that you'll be seeing in May have small, medium, and large icons, small, medium, and large words, both stickers and some ephemera, and they have all the ingredients that we need to make wonderful scrapbooking workshops out of the workshop kits and out of the designer series pattern paper and sticker sheets. And I'm over the moon, and I'm so happy that I had the patience to wait. And it's been absolutely an incredible transformation from where they started to where they're coming, and we're only going to see it get better and better. All right, so I'm getting happier. I am much happier with this. I'd love to know if you think I should have stayed with the original pot and the strawberries, or if you think changing to the leaves was a good call. Just a few little butterfly punch outs there, added those antique pearls, and less is more. more. I think the sparkle and shine of this is the faux wood grain background. That's the element in this that gave it the extra wow factor, and it also helped to stretch the workshop and make the focus on my family and the family photos. Thank you so much for watching. Hit like, subscribe, and come back soon for more right here on Snips by Kelly.